So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Obviously, as part of the work that we do around sustainability in schools, we're asking you to create an action plan, which moving forward is also going to be a requirement from the Department for Education. So we wanted to bring Transform Our World to you guys to show you what action plan tools there are out there. And they've come up with a really great one, which is online and completely free for you to be able to access and create meaningful action plans for your sustainability. So I am going to turn off my camera and mute myself now. I'm going to hand over to you.
Great, thanks so much. Hi everyone, my name is Bina and I work for Global Action Plan and I'm the schools programme manager of the Transform Our World project. Transform Our World is a lottery funded, which is from the I Will Fund, which is a mix of Department for Culture, Media and Sport and Community Lottery funded project of education to support teachers and young people in learning more about the climate crisis in the classroom. So as a programme of work, we work directly in schools across England. We run events like some of you may have heard about our annual youth summit that ran latest in November this year. We also have networks of young people, one being the UK School Sustainability Network. And we also offer teachers resources, programmes and tools to support their education in the classroom. And the Schools Climate Action Planner is sort of our key tool that we have on offer for teachers and educators and school staff to be able to use free of charge in different situations. So I'll talk you through a little bit about what the tool is, how it works, what the concept is. And this tool has been used in many different situations. So whether you run an eco club in your school and you want to use this, whether you've got a class of students that you're working with in your school that you want to use this with, whether you're using it with the school council, whether different classes within your school want to use their own action, have their own action plan at each. The tool is very flexible, and I'll talk you through how it works and how you can use it through this afternoon session. I'll talk probably for about 5 to 10 minutes and then I'll show you some functionalities of the tool, and then if anyone has any questions, do shout. But first of all, I just wanted to give you a bit of a background to the tool. So the tool is available on our Transform Our World website. The email address is at the bottom there on the right hand side, and it's a free tool for you and your students to use in the classroom. So it's free, it's very simple to use, and there's a how-to video on the website as well, but I'll talk you through this afternoon how to use it so that hopefully if you haven't already you can go and have a look and start your own action plan shortly. The idea of the tool is that it helps schools identify the most relevant actions that they can do to reduce their environmental impact. This tool does not calculate carbon footprints or carbon emissions. This is much more about behaviour change and action-based planner that you can use with your students, and many of the actions you may already be doing with your students to make a difference and to improve your sustainability. There have been conversations, especially with the Department for Education sustainability strategy being released earlier this year, around the need for carbon sort of planners or calculators. Lots of organisations are working to sort of work out what the best way is to do that. At Global Action Plan, we're in some of those conversations, but the Schools Climate Action Planner is and will continue to always be an action-based planner, but there may be other things that you can use in the future as and when they're released. It provides free advice and resources from environmental and education organisations across the country, and I'll show you how it does that and how it can help you to understand or add actions to your planner through shared sort of best practice from other schools and other organisations that have been using it. So how does it work? On our website, you can go to the tools section on the Transform Our World website and click on Schools Climate Action Planner. And initially you're asked 12 questions around your school. They are all yes/no questions, and they are similar to these that you can see on the screen now. So it's asking you sort of about building, about greenery, about what you do in your curriculum, a bit about the campus of your school, so whether you have budget to use on changes, maybe solar panels or building bike sheds or rewilding an area of your school. It will ask you a lot of information about your school. It might be that you don't know this information, but it's helpful to make it the most effective plan for you. If you don't know that, to go and seek that information from elsewhere, so whether that's an operations team or SLT, or maybe you know some of it yourself. But these 12 questions help us to create a plan that's more attuned to what you're be representative of your situation in your school, really. So if you don't have green space, the action planner won't give you actions for green space or other equivalent things like that. So it asks you 12 questions. It asks you a little bit about your school, how many young people you've got at your school, where you're based. And then what that does then is create an action plan for you, which is split into 4 pathways. So the first pathway is all about community. This is thinking about outside of your school, how do the actions of others impact the sustainability of your school? So maybe that's parents dropping off young people, maybe that's integration with the community, maybe that's safe passages to school. It might be that you do community events or that you have community spaces in your school. So these actions will all be to do with sort of external to your school. Curriculum pathway number 2 is all about what young people are learning. So whether that's through teacher CPD, through resources in the classroom, through assemblies, through events. Pathway 3 is all about culture, and this is all about behaviour change. So away from the classroom, how are you supporting young people and people around your school to reduce their carbon footprint or to change their attitude towards environmental measures or actions? And finally, pathway 4 is all about campus. So as I mentioned, the initial questions ask you about green space and the places around your school. This is looking at sort of the structural side, the infrastructure that you have in your school and what you can do to make a difference. So the example here is that you could do a no-mow zone, or you could do no-mow May, where you allow the wildlife and greenery to be rewilded to encourage nature and to reduce, so to sort of improve flood management things as well, so you don't have so many surface runoff surfaces, you have lots of vegetation and green space. So the 12 questions create these 4 pathways for you. What you will see is you'll see more actions than this. In the action planner, we have over 60 actions that are sort of computed and calculated from the 12 questions that you initially answer. But the important thing is that the action planner will prioritize your actions under these 4 pathways based on those answers you've given to the 12 questions. So as you can see here, all of the actions have a flower, a pound sign, and some time. The flower is about impact. So this is talking about, it's out of 3. So if it's got 3 flowers, that's sort of the most impactful thing that you could do to improve sustainability. It will rank it based on the questions that you've asked. So if, for instance, that you've answered. So if, for instance, you said your school doesn't have any budget to spend, it wouldn't have a lot of actions that required money as a top priority, because it recognizes that you don't have additional budget to spend at the moment. However, if that changed, then you could go into the tool, edit those 12 questions, and it might reassess what your priorities of actions would be. So yeah, the flower is about impact, the pound is about the cost, and the clock is around time. And the time is usually, 1 clock is usually sort of a day or a week, 2 clocks is usually a term, and 3 clocks is normally the school year. So it's different time frames as to how long the actions will take. And what you can do is under each pathway, you can add specific actions to your planner. You can say you already do it. There may be lots of examples that you already use or you already do. So for instance, if one of the actions for community was have cycle to school day every Friday and you already do it, you can click we already do this and it will mark that as complete against your action plan. Or, as I mentioned, if you don't have, for instance, if you didn't have any grass areas to do a no-mow zone, then you could click not applicable. And these are all changeable throughout. So you can go back in and either click we already do this, add it, or remove it at any time. When you've added your actions to the planner, your plan will then look like this, and it will have all of your actions on the left-hand side. And it will also tell you a little bit more detail. So this is where, as I mentioned earlier, we have educational and organisational tips and information available to you, so that you don't have to just designate a no-mow zone in your school grounds and understand what that means. There's more detail about what that means and how you implement that or how you take that action in this column here. So it will tell you a little bit about what you're doing and give you some tips as to what you might need to do in order to complete that action. And in this looking for inspiration column, we have a number of examples from organisations, for instance here, the Wildlife Trust, the RHS, and in some cases other schools who've done these actions, so that you can look at that inspiration and think about how you might want to implement that in your school. So it's not just giving you a list of things to tick off, it's saying here's more information and also here's some inspiration as to how that might look like. Once you've added your actions, you can add as many or as little as you'd like. That action planner is then downloadable in PDF form. So it might be that you have an eco club in your school, and as a group, all the students work together to decide what actions they want for your action planner. You can then download that as a PDF and share that with the school. What we would love to do, and what we're working towards in the future, is creating the ability for multiple teachers to be able to log into the same action planner. So you could have one for your school, or one for multiple years, or one for an academy trust. We don't have that functionality yet, but what we can do is you can download the PDF of the action planner and share that with colleagues or other students who might be implementing actions as well. On the right hand side here, you have these actions as well. So you can click the tick box when you've completed that action. You can click this, which allows you to add evidence of you doing that action, or delete that from your action planner. I've spoken a little bit about how you access the tool, and I'm happy to go through that again or to answer any questions, but I just want to talk through two new functionalities that have just joined the site in the last week. There is now an opportunity that you can add your own actions. So if I go back to this slide here, at the bottom of your action planner, you'll have now a new box that says add your own action, and you can create your own action. So for instance, in the campus pathway, there might not be something around bees and you want to do have more pollinators in your school. You could add an action saying we want to create we want to have an area of the school where we have beehives and we encourage pollinators, or we have bug hotels, and you can write in your own action into your action planner if it doesn't already exist. And that action will then become available to all the other schools that are using it. We've got over 250 schools using the planner now. All the schools will be able to add that to their planner as well if they like what they've read or want a bit of inspiration from what you're doing in your school. So it's trying to encourage people to be sharing actively what they're doing. And as I mentioned in the action planner, there's this arrow here which allows you to share an update, and we really want to encourage schools to be sharing their updates of examples of what they're doing, so that other schools can see what's happening there and be inspired by that as well. The other functionality, flying around everywhere. The other functionality that is new is adding notes to actions. So it might be that one of your actions, I think on there it said to implement a carbon reduction scheme in your school, and it actually, the time frame is a whole year. You might be reporting to someone in your school. This might not be the case at the moment, but it seems likely that the Department for Education is going to be encouraging more and more for schools to be reporting on their sustainability action. It might be that someone in SLT or someone within your trust or someone within your school is asking for an update on what actions you're doing and how you're progressing. The opportunity and the ability now to add notes to actions means that you don't have to complete an action to be able to report on it. You can make a note of, for instance, we want to reduce our carbon footprint. So you might have a car-free day in September and a car-free day in November. So you could write those in as notes so you can keep a track of how you're doing against your actions, but you wouldn't have completed it yet. So it helps you again to be that resource where you can have everything that you're doing in one place free of charge, and that you can report where you need to, but also reflect with young people you're working with students in assemblies, or there's an eco group when you meet, to be celebrating the impact that you're doing and to be showing the actual progress that you're making. We want this to be a tool to enable people to make change rather than it feeling quite overwhelming and another thing they have to do. A lot of this is also realizing that you already probably do quite a lot of stuff in your school and celebrating that through the tool and through the planner. I mentioned this really briefly a second ago, but we would like to move towards the opportunity to have more localized action plans. So working with specific academy trusts or groups of schools. This is something that we are working on because we need to get funding for it. But in the future, what we hope is that schools could have a dashboard to be able to online, to be able to see the progress of all the schools against actions. And this is something that we are hearing from schools more and more. Again, following the sustainability strategy release, of needing to be able to do this reporting and wanting to have effective information about what schools are doing and where they're up to in their actions. So if that's of interest to you in your school, it's most likely that we'll sort of look for funding from a local authority level or at a higher level than that, because it's quite a bit of money to get this functionality in place. But again, if there's a want from schools, just drop me a line. I can leave my email if you'd like to contact me with any questions afterwards, and we're really happy to chat about what we can do to make the tool more suitable for you as well. And those new functionalities, the adding your own actions and the adding notes to actions, was all from teacher feedback. So we're really happy to sort of hear from you as users as to what you need and what's working and what's not. That's everything on the tool. I just wanted to sort of share this teacher quote with you that I'll leave for you to read, and I'm happy to share some. I've got a video of an example of a member of staff from a school in Manchester talking about how they use the tool, which I'll share for you all after this session. My video is not working on my computer for some reason, but it gives you a nice idea of sort of a case study of how schools are using the action planner in different ways, and potentially some inspiration for you in your school if you're interested in using the tool if you're not already. So I don't know if anyone has any questions about anything, but if you do, feel free to pop in the chat or just say now. Oh, sorry, my computer is being very strange. But I'm really happy to answer any questions that anyone might have.
Thank you very much for that. That was really helpful, and hopefully it's helpful for all our schools as well. There haven't been any questions in the chat, so I am going to stop recording there so that we can